Here we go. Game number 1 will be on Lightshade. And spawning in the bottom right, we have the Brazilian Zerg player. He is, of course, representing Team The Bad. We've been casting him almost all day today. It is TheZergLord. And we have his opponent spawning in the top left-hand corner of Lightshade LE, one of the older maps. We have the pink Terran player. He comes from League of Legends, Viene del LOL. Representing Rebirth Esports, it is Shellbee. Shaking my head. This is why I couldn't find him. I was trying to message him. I'm like, where is Shellbee? I don't see him in game. I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to PM him to get into games, to follow his lobbies. And this is why. I realized when I scrolled all the way to the bottom and I saw the Rebirth tag, I'm like, yeah, Shellbee's on Rebirth. Ah, I see. Shaking my head. Shellbee has been playing a lot of League of Legends recently. On stream, I should say, and yeah, we can see that he is returning from League of Legends to StarCraft. I'm sure the new ladder map pool did reinvigorate him in some way, and he is here. He has returned. And we'll see what he has in store for us. Again, I'm concerned. I'm concerned that he's going to make it up. He's going to make it happen here against the ZergLord. That's not what we want. Or is it? Are we that masochistic? Maybe. Oh, God. So far, things are pretty normal. You know, the Reaper's on the way. We got an SCV scout coming out here from Shellbee going across the map. Meanwhile, thankfully, the ZergLord didn't go for something like an early pool. He didn't go for like a 12 pool or anything like that. Once again, we see a hatch gas pool opening, so pretty standard, pretty economic. And we'll see how things kick off here. Again, Lightshade, it is pretty close by grounds. There isn't that much going on here. As in, like, it isn't as close by ground as Submarine, but other than Submarine, it's pretty quick. So we could see, you know, some early roach aggression. I know Eric loves doing roach pushes on a map like this. But we'll see. We'll see what he has in store for us. Plenty of times we've seen the ZergLord just go Ling Bane Muta and just go heavy on the Muta. But as we saw Shellbee, he is more than willing to just max out on Thors. And just shut down Muta play completely. Oh my god. Almost gets the Reaper in the end. It does. Shellbee, please. He's playing with fire right now. Oh god, but Shellbee, he does back off, does keep the Reaper alive. Meanwhile, back at home, he is going for a 1-1-1 opening here. Going for that Star Port, taking his gases. We'll keep an eye on things. We'll see if he gets a Tech Lab. He's actually not getting a Tech Lab on his racks quite yet, so he's not going for any kind of switch. And pretty interesting, the ZergLord actually opted to go for the triangular third base instead of the linear one. Meanwhile, the Reaper did sneak in and gets a full scout. He sees, hey, there's no extra gases. Ling speed is on the way, so I know, like, obviously there's no early Roach Warren or anything crazy like that. There's no early Lair. So a nice scout there by Shellbee, making sure that there's nothing crazy going on from the Zerg player. Oh my god! Shellbee gets away with 1 HP! He's been so daring with his Reaper this game, but he just keeps it alive. I don't know how he does it. Oh god, and he also takes out one of the creep tumors. And I was really curious about something as he, you know, once again just YOLOs in with his Reaper, and it should go down. There we go. Does finally get picked off. But what's important is that he was able to scout that, hey, there's no Bailey Nest, hey, there's no Roach Warren. My push could deal a lot of damage. I saw all the gases being taken, and I saw that there was no add-on. So I was kind of questioning to myself, what the hell is Shellbee doing? Like, what is all this gas for? We see what it's for. He is throwing down an armory. He is going for a Hellbat push supported by those Marines. And this has a lot of potential. We have seen players defend with just pure Ling Queen before, especially if there are enough Queens and they pull them all from all over the map, from the main and the natural. So even though there's no roaches and even though there's no banelings, the ZergLord can defend, but his micro has to be on point. The transferring joints! No! Oh god! Okay, only 3 go down, but a queen goes down as well, and that's the most important part. That means no more transfuse energy. Meanwhile, the queen does come down from the main base. We have 5 queens here. We got plenty of things, but the Hellbats, they get into the mineral line. They roast 10 drones. Yo, and they're getting on top of the Banelings. No, the Banelings, they were so crucial for the defense, but they all go down. We do have a couple more Banelings being morphed in, and the Hellbats are pushing on towards the queens. The queens, they just barely have enough energy for transfuse, and they're focusing down the medevac. The medevac does get taken out, and with that, the ZergLord will hold. Oof.
Game paused.
Meanwhile, Shellbee does ask for a bit of a pause. I'm gonna quickly check, and I'm pretty sure someone just walked into Shellbee's store. For those wondering, Shellbee, whenever he plays in these events, like, I'm shaking my head, he is upstairs currently, and downstairs is a store that his family owns, and at the moment he's looking after the store. So whenever someone walks into the store and you hear the bell and they're looking to buy something, Shellbee has to go down and like look after the store. God damn it. And then he quickly comes back up and keeps playing. Oh god. Meanwhile, I'm a ref, but I believe Cosmos is... There we go.
Game resumed.
I'm leaving all that up to Cosmos, mate. He's got it. Oh boy. But yes, Shellbee has returned, and okay. So the ZergLord was able to defend. I mean, Shellbee was...
Game paused.
Shellbee. Ay. This is both a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing that obviously pauses like this have to happen, but it's a good thing because you know what? This tells us that right now Shellbee's making money. You know, his store, it's popping off. Shaking my head. That's always the rough thing about casting Shellbee. Like, again, we love him, we cover him as often as we can, but it does mean that sometimes we get a decent amount of pauses in games. And what's scary is that Shellbee only has 1 pause remaining. To be fair, I'm sure if he asked for a pause, then the ZergLord would also pause as well. Hopefully we don't get too many of these in just game number 1. Ay. Okay, he's back. Okay, we're back. All right. Now we gotta try to get back into this game. So again, Shellbee, he was able to deal a lot of damage, and a surprising amount of damage because he was able to get on top of those morphing banelings. Like, that was really nicely executed there. Obviously, he wasn't able to end the game, but he was able to kill a decent amount of workers. What's scary is that he's still behind in that worker production, so he does get into the third base mineral line, does roast another 7 drones, and just like that, he catches back up, he equalizes the worker count, which is always a good thing for Terran. Nicely done. What's impressive to me is that he was able to dive in with these Hellions, deal all that damage, despite all these queens being here at the base. Like, he did not care at all. It's like, you can have all these queens, doesn't matter, mate. I'm just gonna slip into the natural. I'm gonna slip into the mineral line, and I'm just gonna roast everything that there is. Meanwhile, we got more Hellions on the way, and this is a tell, obviously, as we got all these factories being thrown down. We got 4 factories producing right now, going straight into Thor's, and oh god. Okay, thankfully the Banelings were able to show up and they were able to push away these Hellions. Those drones lined up so well, and he even dives in anyway. Ay, at the same time, Banshees show up as well. So many drones are going down. 10 more drones on top of the 10 that went down earlier. And with that, Shellbee's able to keep his economic lead. He can probably even kill this base as well. Oh, thankfully though, for the ZergLord, the cloak does run out on one of these Banshees, so the Queens will be able to push these away. I said we'll be able to push these. Oh my god. Oh no. Oh god, no, the base! One more! Oh my god, that was a kill! Oh god, that wasn't even a cancel. Shellbee, he's killing all the workers, he's killing bases, he's just having his way with the ZergLord right now. The ZergLord, he's struggling to keep up. Well, again, he wants to get into his game. We've got upgrades on the way, double evos, Lair is done, we've got Roach speed on the way, but the problem is that he's spending all his lava on drones, when he could have been making an army right now, if he wasn't losing all those drones early on. Ooh, finally, the Roaches are here to push away one of these Hellion run-bys. Finally, the ZergLord is able to keep his mineral lines safe. But the damage has already been done. Shellbee, now he's on 3 bases. He's got his 4th on location. We've got all the upgrades on the way. We got Blue Flame, which I think is a little bit late, to be honest, but I think his tech labs were still in production. And mass tank on the way as well. I do think we have a couple of Thors. When I say a couple, it is only one. We have one Thor out right now. I do like that he isn't overcommitting to Thors blindly. There are some players that do this, like they just commit to like 4, 5, 6 Thors just because they assume a Spire is going to be coming out. But Shellbee, because he's been on point with his scouting, he knows that, hey, there is no Spire. I don't have to be worried about any kind of meter switch right now. I don't have to concern myself with Thors. So yeah, he's instead focusing on his tank production. I would love to see like maybe Tank Liberator, like something along those lines, but oh god, it's just mass factory. He's even got 2 more on the way. I don't think he can afford to produce from all these factories, but you know what? He's going for it anyway. Meanwhile, pretty interesting decision here by the ZergLord. I saw him throw down the infestation pit, and I was thinking, maybe he's going to go Swarm Host. Swarm Host can do really well against mass tank like this, especially when there are a few Thors out. Like Thor volleys just mow down Locust waves. But if there are not enough Thors, then Swarm Host can be a really good counter to this. Unfortunately, we see that it is not Thors. Instead, we see Pathogen Glands on the way, and 5 Infestors are on the way. So this is obviously another route that you can go for. I don't like it that much though. This is ideal against battle mech. Like again, if you're going up against like Hellion Cyclone, you can use your Infestors to land some Fungals and catch the army, and then clash with your Roach Ravager. Against mass tank like this, what is the plan for the Infestors? Are they going to... He doesn't have mind control, he doesn't have neuroparasite, he only has Fungals available to him to help him in this fight. Like, you're not going to Microbial Shroud, there's nothing in the sky. So I'm concerned, I must say, for the ZergLord. Neuroparasite is finally being researched, finally, but it's too late. The army's here. Oh boy. Thankfully, Shellbee's taking his time. He's at the edge of creep. He's wasting time killing rocks right now. He's trying to reposition his army, and this is giving time to the ZergLord. He's slowly gathering energy on these Infestors. He's slowly buying time for that neuroparasite. Right now, he's setting up a surround, which is great. You know, he's able to get a nice flank. You know, the Biles do land, take out 2 tanks and a Thor. Nicely done. The positioning here is really what's amazing for the ZergLord. He scans, he sees all the Infestors in the back. Ooh, a lot of Banelings are being morphed in as well. Interesting choice here, spending a lot of his gas on Banelings. Banelings, I guess, they will definitely help clean up all these Hellbats. But what's scary is that there's not a lot of creep here. There's actually no creep spread whatsoever in this area, so it will take quite some time for those Banelings to find those connections. But another Thor does get picked off, and as all this is happening, the ZergLord is expanding over to the north side of the map. He's ready to just give up one of these bases if he needs to. Yo, and Neural's done. The Infestors are coming in. Let me see those Neural Parasites against 1 tank, 2 tanks, 3 tanks get taken over. But is it going to be enough? Because there are only 2 Infestors remaining. The Lings and the Ravagers are trying to get on top of the army. The Biles do land on some of the tanks. but not enough of the tanks. As all the infestors go down, the entire army of the ZergLord just collapses on itself on the wall that is the mass tank from Shellbee. And Shellbee is able to push on forward, will take the engagement and take one of these hatcheries. Oh. Now, I think it's a little bit too late, but now the ZergLord's like, oh my god, I need to go for a counterattack. I cannot fight this army whatsoever. And this counterattack is going to deal a lot of damage. Thankfully for Shellbee, his reinforcements are not too far behind, so he will be able to clean this up, but not before losing 21 SCVs. At the same time, the main army is pushing on forward, and I love the Muta switch. The Spire went down earlier, and I thought it was going to be for something like Broodlords, but mate, it's just straight up Mutas. I was talking about it earlier. Unfortunately, Shellbee, he was not ready for the Muta switch. We have 5 Thors on the way, but they are not going to come out in time to save all these tanks. These tanks, they have to do as much damage as possible before they go down. And sure, they got a base, but they're not going to find too much more damage. As everything gets cleaned up to the Mutas, we even have +1 flyer attack on the way for the ZergLord. How much more damage will these Mutas do though? Like, again, it was a really good job cleaning up the army. If they go across the map, we already got missile turrets. Do we have enough SCVs to repair the missile turrets is the big question, because this is a pretty large Muta flop. Oh my god, immediately the missile turret gets 3 shot, another missile turret's gonna go down. There are just not enough SCVs here to repair. So the Mutas are just going unhindered. At the same time, we do have a bunch of Hellions trying to hit the northern base, and yo, this mineral line looks so juicy. Give us that KBBQ. Ugh. They all get roasted, 9 drones go down, but the Roach Ravager army is here. Thankfully, the ZergLord didn't neglect his ground army. It is here to defend in the north against the Hellions. And the Thors move here to the south. Ooh, but not before. Oh my god! Not before losing the planetary, but 19 Mutas just died in an instant. The ZergLord, he clumped up his Mutas at the wrong moments, and immediately the volleys of the Thors landed and the Mutas just evaporated. And just like that, the army supply of the ZergLord plummets. He plummets to 150. Oh my god. He plummets to 150 supply. At the same time, Shellbee, once again, he's got another customer. He's going to go attend the store. But that was honestly a really big mistake there. Like, there was a lot of potential for those Mutas, not to necessarily deal a lot of damage, but to harass and keep Shellbee busy. That was the purpose of the Mutas. And to lose all of them in an instant like that is such a massive gas bank as well. That was 19 Mutas gone. Like, that's crazy. Like, just how expensive that loss was. And now we see Shellbee, he's skyrocketing ahead in terms of army supply, and if he pushes out, what is there to defend? If we quickly take a look at the units, we have 1 Infestor, we have Ling Roach Ravager, and that's it. Like, there's no finesse to this army. On top of that, the ZergLord is stuck on 2-2. Even though he finished up his hive, he's focusing on transitioning into Broodlords, which I guess makes sense. But obviously you need a lot of time for Broodlords. You need to morph in the Corruptors, and then you need to morph in the Broodlords themselves. And when your opponent already has Thors, like Shellbee does, Broodlords aren't necessarily the best answer. Oh boy. Boy, here we go. We even have more Thors coming out of the production line as well. We have a couple of medevacs, and what's important about that is that if Broodlords do come out, something that Shellbee did against Perhark, which wasn't on stream, but it was off stream, it was on Shellbee's stream, is that Shellbee did kind of go for 3 medevacs, pick up 3 Thors, and just like zoom past the Zerg army, just land the Thors on top of the Broodlords and just focus them down one after the other. And like, again, Shellbee has it in him to do something like that. Oh boy. So right now it's up to the ZergLord to make something happen. Things are not looking good for him. He needs to go for maybe a run by, kill this southern base again, maybe go for some multi-prong, kill the south base, and maybe deal some damage here to the north. Try and get like a Ling run by going, or maybe sneak into the main base somehow. He needs to do something just to buy time. Again, that's the whole thing. That's all that the ZergLord needs to do, so that he can refine his army, so he can max out once again. because he doesn't necessarily have a massive bank right now either. Speaking of, just quickly tuning into Shellbee's stream again. Hi. Mate, there better be like a store command for Shellbee. What's going on? Why is there not? Yeah. Unfortunately, it's the life you live, you know. You gotta run a store and play StarCraft at the same time. Rough life, rough life. Yeah, I'm just quickly checking. Yep, Shellbee's still looking after the store. I mean, to be fair, honestly, Shellbee's doing really well this game. Like, doing incredibly well. And hopefully the ZergLord and Cosmos understand. I don't know if they are familiar with Shellbee and that they know the situation that he's in. But yeah. Hopefully they're okay with this and they are understanding. As I quickly check that my mic is not muted. There we go. Okay. I gotta make sure. I don't know anymore. I don't know. And yeah. It's a bit of a shame. If this was one of the newer maps, we could like be looking at the map itself and kind of like trying to find some Easter eggs here and there or anything different about the map, anything that maybe we didn't notice before. But we're still in Lightshade. It's been around for quite some time now. Not gonna lie, I miss the Ducklings Showdown version of Lightshade. For those wondering, the VODs are on YouTube now, but we did host the Duckling Showdown at the end of 2020, and we took the latter map pool and we commissioned Christmas-themed versions of the map pool. So we had like a bunch of Christmas lights all over the place, we had a bunch of Christmas trees, we had a bunch of Ewoks as well, like celebrating and dancing around the Christmas trees, we had presents lining the edges of the map as well. Honestly, it looked pretty amazing, and we're very happy with how it turned out. Unfortunately, we only had it for one event, but for what it was pretty good.
Game resumed.
Oh. Shellbee is back. The game has resumed, and 3 infestors are being made. So I think what's important is that Shellbee was able to take that pause to kind of reflect, take a step back, look at his situation and be like, what do I need right now? What is the best way that I can survive right now? What's interesting, +1 fire attack got restarted. Okay, so I think he canceled it earlier to get a faster Greater Spire. I don't know if that was the best choice, but it was his choice to go for. And yeah, he's opting to go for a bunch of infestors, which I think is smart. Because again, your Parasite on Thors could work really well, especially if you're complementing your army with Broodlords to stop the amount of anti-air that your opponent has. Ooh, meanwhile, Shellbee is pushing here towards the northern side of the map. The ZergLord is getting ready for his round. He has a force to the north and a force to the south. He even has a bunch of infestors ready, but they do get scanned, and Shellbee is well aware of them. I don't know if I like this. Shellbee, he is kind of forcing his army here towards the north. He runs into the army of the ZergLord, and that does trigger the ZergLord. He's just pushing on in with his entire army. He's trying to Mural Parasite as much as he can, but immediately all the infestors get targeted down, and that's it. GG gets called. Shellbee takes game number 1. He's here. He's back from League of Legends. And honestly, I was expecting the game to go a little bit longer, but Shellbee just immediately maxed out and he's like, let's go. He forced the ZergLord to attack into his army, and even though Shellbee wasn't necessarily like pre-sieged or anything like that, like his army was just so beefy, so tanky, there was so many Thors, and Yeah, he just rolled over whatever the ZergLord had. Oh god. Meanwhile, Jim is asking for the score. Can I join game? Alright, we are just getting ready for game number 2. Gonna be on Death Aura LE, Death Aura. And oh boy, give your energy to the ZergLord. He's going he's going to need it here. He really did struggle against Shellbee. Shellbee, he was doing so well that game. I want to give him some praise, because we don't give him enough praise on this channel. We do sometimes give him a hard time because of all the pauses, because you know, he's a very entertaining streamer. But he's also really good at the game, and we saw like he was harassing all over the place. He was diving in with his Hellbats, with his Hellions. He was diving in with his Banshees as well. He was just all over the place with what he had. Very active, and the ZergLord really struggled to keep up. Like honestly, I'm impressed. I'm very impressed with what Shellbee was able to achieve there. And now he's up 1-0 in the series. And he could take the entire series. And honestly, Shellbee's TVZ is looking really good. The winner of this series will most likely go up against, the winner of this series will go up against Jim Rising. And Shellbee versus Jim Rising, like Shellbee could even take that series as well. Like Jim Rising, sure, he's a solid Zerg player, but we'll see. This could be the year of Shellbee. It could happen. Speaking of the great, oh my god, there are just so many good series going on right now. So the winner of this series is going up against Jim Rising. Right now, that Rebirth or that X Rebirth TVT is going on right now. Neo is going up against Tavo in or just underneath us. In the lower half of the bracket, Ryu is going up against Shakti in a beautiful ZvP. And in the very bottom of the bracket, Parker Mike is waiting for Crown for a PVT. Crown is Terran. But we are still in the middle of this series, and spawning in the top left hand corner of Death Aura LE. Hold on. Hold on. Am I crazy? Did I lose my mind? Yeah, it's not. Oh god. I introduced this map and I'm like, hold on, this doesn't seem right. It's oh god. We'll see if we remake. But yeah, fun fact. Fun fact, Death Aura isn't in the map pool anymore. So we will be remaking. Shaking my head, guys. So we'll be waiting a little bit longer to get into the next game. Yeah, I mean, it's an easy mistake to make. The new map pool is very new. What am I saying? The new map pool came out a couple of days ago. So a lot of the players aren't used to it. Some of these guys may not have even laddered this week, and they may not even have any practice on the new maps. And you know, old habits die hard, right? So yeah, it's gonna take some time getting used to, you know, not picking maps like Death Aura and Submarine. Mainly Death Aura. Just these guys. Funada Shellbee and Funada TheZergLord. How did they do their vetoes? What happened? Oh god. All right, it looks like the map has been set for game number 2. It is still going to be one of the older maps. But we are going to be loading into Jagannatha, one of the last remaining maps. Also, good morning, Sounder in the chat. Hope you're having a good day. We're still like barely halfway through the tournament today. Like, we've got so many matches ahead of us. S in the chat for GPO tonight. But here we go. Now, actually getting into game number 2 of this best of 3 series. Spawning in the top right hand corner of Jagannatha LE, we have the Brazilian Zerg player representing Team The Bad, currently down 0-1 in this best of 3. It is TheZergLord. And spawning in the bottom left hand corner, we have, representing his new team, Rebirth Esports. He has returned from League of Legends. Vengo de LOL, he says himself. It is the Peruvian Terran player. It is Shellbee. All right, place your bets in chat. How many pauses are we going to get this game? In game number 1, we have a total of 3. Will we have another 3? Will the game last that long? That is the question. I am honestly surprised TheZergLord is going Hatchgas pool. After game number 1, I assumed he was going to try to end the game early, try to be ultra aggressive, go for like a 12 pool, or go for like an early gas or something crazy like that. Maybe some early roach pressure, Eric style. But no, he's just playing straight up. Madman. Meanwhile, so is Shellbee. Shellbee not skipping his Reaper or anything crazy like that. He is still going for his SCV Scout as well. And what we really have to keep an eye on is his Reaper. If you recall, in game number 1, he kept his Reaper alive for an insanely long time. He was dancing with death. He went down to like 1 HP like twice, I think, just barely being out of range of the queens. It was very impressive to see, and we'll see if he does the same thing. With this SCV, he just saw the timing of the hatch. He's like, oh, it's a hatch first. Okay, I'll back off. I'll go back home. Interesting decision that he didn't decide to keep his SCV at the 3rd base to like try and delay it and be annoying. Instead, he just gave it for free to TheZergLord. He's like, you know what, you can have it. No! Oh my god! Wow, Shellbee being over eager. I didn't even notice it. Like, I did just pan over quickly. I'm like, all right, he dives in with his Reaper. He's gonna keep it alive. Not at all. TheZergLord, he trapped the Reaper with an Evo Chamber and his Lings, and he was able to snipe the Reaper. And is he going to do anything with that? denying scouting information like this is amazing. You can do whatever you want. You can throw down your gases, you can go for a fast lair, you can go for a fast roach warren, and your opponents will be none the wiser. And now Shellbee has to play with this like atmosphere of uncertainty going on around him, right? Like he doesn't know what's happening anymore. He may even be forced to scan, which would be terrible for him. But again, it's one of those things that like, do you really want to take the risk? Do you want to just like play blindly against what your opponent's doing and maybe just lose the game for no reason? To be fair, Shellbee is up 1-0 in this series, so he can afford to drop a map. Like he doesn't it doesn't necessarily matter. So, or like he has some room to make some mistakes or take some risks, cut some corners. If things don't work out for him, he's got another game to fall back on. So he doesn't necessarily have to spend those resources, waste the scan or anything like that. Instead, he's poking and prodding with his Hellions. He's actually finding a drone here and there, which is pretty surprising, to be honest, as one drone does go down. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, the ZergLord, he dives in with his Overlord. He scouts the entire main base, and what is important is that the Marines were out of position, and the armory gets scouted. So here we go. We got Lings. We got plenty of Lings. We got 20 Lings on the way. We got 2 Queens on the way alongside. Oh, okay, I thought a lair may have been on the way, but no, just all the Queens. The Baneling nest is about to finish up. If the Banelings do get morphed in time, the ZergLord will be perfectly fine against this Hellbat push. And he shouldn't take anywhere near as many losses as he did in game number 1. Oh boy, oh boy. And here we go, the Hellbats are morphing in and he will be pushing in towards that natural base. The Queens are here, Banelings are already being morphed in as well, and the Lings are going for a surround. Ooh, juicy connections there with those Banelings. 2 Hellbats immediately fall, and now the rest of the Banelings are waddling in. A nice focus fire as well with the Queens, and the ZergLord, he defends without losing a single drone. And that, my friends, is the power of scouting. Oh my god. And this is also the power of mech, because we have a second armory on the way, we got +1 vehicle attacks on the way, we got a second factory, a third factory. Like Shellbee once again is making it happen, unfortunately. I say unfortunately, honestly. Shellbee doesn't play very turtly. From what we've seen so far, he's usually very active. I like how he doesn't skip out on Hellions. He's just continuing Hellion production, and he's going to be going across the map, and he's going to be harassing as best he can. He's going to be trying to pick into mineral lines as best he can. He's a lot more active than some of these other Terran players, like Neo. God damn it, Neo. Oh god. And with that, Shellbee is slowly expanding. He's even getting a Thor out as well. I would imagine, just like game number 1, he's only going for 1 Thor unless he has scouted his opponent. His Rax is looking poised to dive into the main base. I do quickly want to check where. There it is. The Spire is at the 3rd. It has not been scouted quite yet, but again, Shellbee is going for that 1 Thor, which is exactly what he did last game. He just went for a single Thor, and he didn't really overcommit to them. Just went for that 1 safety Thor instead. Meanwhile, the Rax dives into the main base, but there's no tech here. Sure, there's a lair and 2 gases, but that says nothing. I mean, we have roaches on the way, you know, like no information was gathered. He does go into the natural from here, and he will also see nothing. He'll see the roach warren and 2 evo chambers. If the Rax does fall from here, I wouldn't be surprised if Shellbee just scans the 3rd. It would be pretty smart. Like, he just kind of covered his bases. He scouted 2 bases. Why not throw a scan down? He tried to sneak into the 3rd with his Hellions, but the Queens were in position, and the ZergLord was able to push Shellbee back. And Shellbee still does not know about the mutas, and this is terrifying because 11 mutas are in production. And this is something that can straight up kill Terran players if they are not ready for it. Thankfully, there is some anti-air. We do have some missile turrets and a Thor and a Viking, which is okay, but it's not ideal. Again, these units are very immobile. They have to make sure that they are in position for the mutas, otherwise they're not going to be able to help at all. Ooh, meanwhile, the Hellions, they do slip in and they scout the mutas. So now with that heads up, immediately we have Thors in production for Shellbee. Sure, all the Hellions went down without getting too much damage done, but there we go. 2 Thors are on the way. We got 3 more missile turrets on the way as well. Like Shellbee, he does not want to lose, or he doesn't want to take as much damage as he did last game to those Mutalisks. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. The 4th base will go down. Hopefully cancel. Yeah, he does cancel just barely in time. We do have plenty of missile turrets here, so again, these mutas aren't going to find too much more damage, but getting it canceled the 4th was pretty big. And the mutas do get pushed back. And I love this. The ZergLord, he's a little bit faster here in game number 2. Taking up, not just with the Mutalisks, but also we already have the Infestation Pit. What is he going to go for? That is the question. I would have loved Swarm Host in game number 1. Is he going to go for Infestors again? I'm concerned. We saw how the Infestors did last game. And that didn't work. They just didn't. The Infestors were not ideal. So we'll see if maybe it's just to go into Broodlords. Regardless, hopefully he starts his Hive soon. I'm talking about Hive. Yo, he's just finishing up 1-1. Oh, God. Once again, the upgrades are not there. But you know what is there? The multi-prong. The ZergLord, he's distracting the main army with his Retravager. At the same time, the muta's going once again, denying that 4th CC. Or I should say at least the missile turrets here. The 4th CC is still in production here in between the bases. It is nicely defended, so it will be able to finish up and land on location. Ooh, meanwhile, there we go. We got the Hive on the way. We got a 2nd Spire on the way. That tells me that he does want to eventually go into Broodlords, wants to work on his Greater Spire and his Flyer upgrades. Speaking of upgrades, we got 2-2 on the way as well. 1-1 just finishing up. So he is lagging behind in the upgrades, but he's not forgetting them. Ooh, and another tank does go down. Shellbee, he's trying. He wants that 4th base. He wants to expand, but he just can't contend with this army. Not yet anyway. Like, we can see the difference in supplies right now. Like, defensively, he has the advantage if the Zerg pushes into him with all these tanks. But pushing out is a little bit difficult. Yo, he's unsieged! Oh god! The Biles are landing. They land on the tank on the back row, and he gets us around, and the ZergLord, he's able to take a fight here, but he cannot push forward. There's still 4 tanks in the back line. And what's important is the ZergLord, all he's doing is just denying the base. Like the 4th, it's not happening. Oh god, a couple more SCVs are going down as well. God, the base takes even more damage to the Biles. The ZergLord, he's just reinforcing across the map. Oh, the Lings, they will be kind of interrupted, and a bunch of Lings are going down. But again, like, he just has so much supply to work with, and Shellbee, he's kind of spread thin right now. Oh my god. Despite that, he actually trades favorably. I didn't think that would happen, but wow, Shellbee actually pushes away the Retravager of the ZergLord. Honestly, there's not much Ravager here, like, and Shellbee, he realizes that he does push on further, even more, takes out more Ravagers. The problem is that every single time they clash, Shellbee loses like 2-3 tanks, and he can't really afford to lose those tanks. He needs the 4th base, he needs the money, he needs the economy. Oh, and the ZergLord, he knows that. He's trying to focus down the CC, and he gets it. Oh my god, and there's only 1 Thor here. The mutas, they push on forward. The Lings are flooding in across the map as well. There isn't enough on the ground to really snowball, but the mutas they're just finding so much value here, just taking out tank after tank. He's just throwing the mutas away. They've already paid for themselves. Oh my god, and now that the mutas have been able to take out 2-3 tanks, the Ling Ravager pushes on forward, takes out the remaining tanks. Sure, there's a couple more in the back line, but there's nothing to protect them. There's no buffer, there's no Hellbats, there's no Thors, there's no Cyclones, there's just nothing on the ground. So every single tank goes down, and this time it looks like the ZergLord has been able to break his Terran opponent. What is there really left? There's a bit of a Hellion run by here. It gets cleaned up. It gets a handful of drones. Does it really matter? Not really. Oh god. Meanwhile, Shellbee, he is trying to micro his heart out with these Thors, and he does push away the army, but he's down to 3 bases. I say he's down. He's stuck on 3 bases. Oh god. And now he's trying to remake the 4th, but I think the ZergLord, he's a good enough player where he's not going to give Shellbee time. Like, he's just remaxing. We've got Corruptors on the way. We're gonna have Broodlords on the way soon, and Shellbee's down 100 supply. Like, Shellbee, he's just gonna run out of army, run out of money even. He just can't keep up. And that really just shows how important something like a 4th base is. Like, without it, you just get left in the dust. Meanwhile, the ZergLord, he's got his 4th, he's got a 5th, he's got a 6th, working on the 7th. He's taking his entire half of the map, and there's nothing to stop him. So from here, and with these Broodlords on the way, this should be the nail in the coffin. This should be the end of game number 2. Shellbee just barely has anything left here, and try as he might, like, he is defending his 4th base as best as he can. Sometimes with what you have, your best isn't good enough, because you know what, here come the Broodlords, and what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do against the Broodlords? Honestly, I just realized the ZergLord made classic mistake of turning every single one of his Corruptors into Broodlords, so there's nothing to stop the Vikings. So Shellbee will eventually kill all the Broodlords. But the question is, how much can the Broodlords get done before they fall? Because the Broodlings are getting on top of all the tanks. Tanks are going to be going down. If the tanks fall, there's nothing to stop the Broodlords from taking out the Planetary again, the 4th base again. I say that, but honestly, the Broodlords are being thinned out. Oh god, the classic mistake of turning all your Corruptors into Broodlords. Ay, there's no anti-air. Yo, is he gonna actually hold on to his bases? I mean, it shouldn't matter because of the Ling flood, but we'll see. The Lings, they go across the map, they get on top of these Vikings. The Vikings, again, Shellbee, he's holding on for now. And he kept all his bases alive, which is pretty important, honestly. He kept his natural, his 3rd, and his 4th alive. He just doesn't have the workers. He's down to 40 workers compared to the 84 of the ZergLord. Oh god. We even have some murals. GG finally does get called. And the ZergLord ties up the series. Wow. And it all began with the mutas, mate. The mutas, they dealt damage. They did so well. They were unscouted for so long. Eventually, they were seen by the Hellions, and Shellbee was able to come up with a response, but we saw that he wasn't able to transition fast enough because those mutas got so much value. They were able to pick off so many of the tanks of Shellbee, and with that, then the Ling Ravager on the ground kind of started to overwhelm the Terran player. Oof, what a game. Speaking of, I have to wonder what map are we going to be getting into in the Ace match. Hopefully a new one. Hopefully. Oh boy, and it is. Huh. Just letting them know that I'm ready. Shellbee is ready. Cosmos is ready. The ZergLord is ready. And we are going to be getting into 2000 atmospheres. One of the newer maps in the map pool. Meanwhile, ooh, we do have a couple of updates. I don't know if you caught a glimpse of that, but Ryu was able to 2-0 Shakti. Honestly, that's pretty big. And it will most likely be Ryu up against Paco Mike in the lower semifinals. Upper semifinals are still up in the air. And speaking of things being up in the air, here we have one of our two players, the Brazilian Zerg player in the bottom left of 2000 atmospheres. Representing Team The Bad, it is TheZergLord. And spawning in the top right hand corner of our new map, 2000 atmospheres, we have the Peruvian Terran player. He is representing Rebirth Esports. He is pink. It is Shellbee. Returning from League of Legends. For those wondering, that's what Vengo del LOL is. I come from League of Legends. Shaking my head. Aye. God damn it, Shellbee. And maybe that's why. Maybe that's why he wasn't able to take game number 2. You know, maybe it's because he's been spending too much time playing League of Legends and not enough time on StarCraft. And that's going to be a legitimate question here in the new maps, because we're on 2000 atmospheres. It came out, what, 3-4 days ago now? Has Shellbee been able to ladder? Has he been laddering? Has he been able to play on these new maps at all? We'll find out. Also, one of the best things about this map, I don't know if you noticed, it's underwater. We got fish all over the place, and there is a chance for dead units to float up to the surface. Very akin to Abyssal Reef, except Abyssal Reef was like every unit flies up to the surface, so things would clutter and it would kind of tax players' PCs. So I believe, from what I've heard, it's a 10% chance. 10% chance that dead units will float up. So not everything will be floating, but every now and then, someone will soar to the sky. Someone will soar. And we're getting closer. We're getting closer. You know, we've got fish on the map. Eventually, we'll have ducks. You know, we've got lily pads on Jagannatha. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get our ducks in game one day. Meanwhile, the Hellion does go across the map. Hopefully this time, ooh, the ZergLord does try to trap the Reaper, but the Reaper does manage to go around and escape. Doesn't go down that early though. Ah! Okay. We're good. We're good. Shellbee, please. Papi, please. Calm down. Okay. In the end, Shellbee, he does back off. He does keep his Reaper alive. Ooh, actually catches one of these Lings. Beautiful. Nicely done by Shellbee. And we'll see what he has in store for us. Again, so far his openers have been the same. He keeps going for these Hellbat pushes, and I don't like it. Throw it in the series. Once, maybe twice, 3 times? You're clowning us at this point, mate. Like, you have to respect your opponents. You have to assume that they are going to get better and better at each iteration of that build in a series. As we saw, the ZergLord struggled in game 1, and in game 2 he shut it down completely. He's a good enough player to be able to adapt like that. So I hope that Shellbee doesn't go for another Hellbat push. It shouldn't work a 3rd time, but we'll see. We'll see. As the Overlord of the ZergLord is trying to get into the base, and it will be denied this time. And this is a key point here, because the first time in game number 2, the Overlord actually made it all the way to the main base and he saw the armory. What's important about this game is that the Overlord was denied, so for all the ZergLord knows, it could be another Hellbat push. Of course, we know that there is no armory, and instead it is going to be a Hellbat drop into the main base. Ooh, the Ling does miss the drop, And it does skirt past, so far it has been unscouted. What's important though is that the ZergLord does see the third CC being built, so he knows that it isn't a big committed attack like we've seen in the previous games. Oh boy. That dead space in the main base as the Hellions do sneak in, and they do get into the mineral line, already getting 5-7 drone kills. Maybe a couple more. Oh, another volley. And in the end, 10 drones go down. Honestly, nicely done for Hellions. It wasn't just those 10 drones, but also he was able to scout the main base. He saw that there was no lair, saw that no additional gases were taken, and what's important is that the ZergLord was ready for a Hellbat push. He had Banelings, he had Queens, he had Lings, and they were all at the front line. He was assuming that the Shellbee was going to do the same thing 3 games in a row, and I love what Shellbee did. He did decide to switch things up, go for a little bit of a mind game, and it paid off. Meanwhile, we do have this squad of Hellions here towards the south, looking to dive into the mineral line of the third base. And yo, where are the Lings at? The Lings, they do finally show up. Ooh, get us around. Almost us around. And it looks like there are just barely enough Lings here to clean up the Hellions. The Hellions were not able to get any juicy connections in the mineral line. Only 2 drones go down. Nice defense there by the ZergLord. He does secure his 3rd. Now he's moving on to his 4th. I will say that it does feel like his lair and his tech is a little bit late. When it comes to his tech, I do mean, like, I'm referring to his Evo chambers. There we go, the Evos are finally being taken. What's important is that we do have a macro hatch in the main base as well. And this tells me that he does want to go Ling Bane Muta. I was going to say Ling Bane and whatever else he wants as a supporting unit, but we do see a Spire on the way. So we do see a more classic Zerg composition coming from the ZergLord, which is cool, but I don't know how well this will fare against mech. Because once again, we got mech. And I don't think the ZergLord has confirmation. He hasn't gone in for a secondary scout, and okay, now he knows. I was about to say that he may be assuming, because it wasn't a Hellbat push, that maybe it's not mech. Maybe this game Shellbee is going for bio instead, but because he sees the racks floating in the sky, he knows that it is going to be mech. That's why we do see a Roach Warren on the way as well. Ooh, meanwhile, at the same time, we have another Link run by, Hellion run by at the third base, but once again, it will get cleaned up. Ooh, not before killing a decent amount of drones, to be honest. I'm surprised 7 drones went down. So a bit of a blunder there in terms of the defense for the ZergLord. He wasn't quick enough with his Lings to get us around and lock down those Hellions, so they still were able to deal some damage. Meanwhile, this Rax gets into the main, and even though he doesn't scout the tech, even though he doesn't scout the Spire, he sees both hatcheries, so that should tell him, hey, Ling Bane is on the way, and most likely Muta. Actually, he did see the Spire. So he knows 100%. So I didn't notice that the Spire was at the 3rd, and when the Hellion run by did happen, he did spot it, so he has all the information he needs. Oh boy, as I take another sip of water. And with that, we got Thor production on the way. We got 2 Thors coming out. So we already have 2 Thors with the main army. So again, it's going to be difficult for these mutas to really find too much damage. The mutas are out, and we'll see what they find. As they almost run into the Hellions. There is potentially damage to be done in the natural. I know they could definitely deny the 4th base, as the ZergLord was doing to great success in game number 2. The mutas actually run past the Banshees unintentionally, I think. The mutas, they dive on top of the tank, and I think they get 1 tank, but they take a lot of Thor shots to the face. Ay. That was not ideal. It's a really interesting interaction that just happened. And now what's scary, it's this fourth base. The fourth base is about to finish up. The ZergLord, he has to do something about this. He has to stop it. And he does dive in here. He's actually going to get a lot of SCV kills here. Yo, the response from the Thors was not fast enough. At the same time, there was a bit of a Ling run by, but it was denied. Ooh, and the Mutas got 9 SCVs. Meanwhile, at the same time, the Banshees are going across the map. They pick off 1 queen. They're going to, yo, they could pick off every single queen here. Ay, ay, ay. 4 queens go down to 3 Banshees. And sure, there is a detection around, but what's important is that with those 4 queens, as well as all that energy, it could really hinder that creep spread later on in the game. It'll become a lot more difficult for the ZergLord to respread this creep once Shellbee starts pushing out of the map. If he pushes out of the map, I should say, because we got a massive Ling Bane push. The Banelings, they trade, they just dive straight onto all of those Thors. 3 Thors immediately go down. And with that, are there enough Thors to take out the Mutas? The Mutas are trying to dive on top of the planetary. The Ling Bane gets cleaned up, and my god, there were not enough Mutas to take down that base. Thankfully for Shellbee, I believe he had like 6 Thors. I feel like there are Terran players out there that are like, you know what? I don't need any more Thors. I'm good here. And they switch into tank production and they would be punished. But because Shellbee, he's just pumping out nothing but Thors. He had plenty in reserve. He had plenty on the way, and he was able to push away the ZergLord. Yo, but the ZergLord's not done. He wants that planetary. He wants to crash all of his Banelings into it and take it out. And honestly, there are enough Banelings here to one-shot or to just obliterate that planetary. And there's no SimCity here. If there was a wall of depots, then maybe then Shellbee would be okay, but it's looking unlikely, especially because all the Thors are distracted by the Mutas. Oh god, the Banelings are running in. There are plenty of tanks here, but is it going to be enough? It's not going to be enough. The Banelings, they crash into the planetary. And immediately take it out. Meanwhile, at the same time, the Mutas try to get into the main base, but this is what I love. The Medivacs alongside the Thors do defend against the Mutas. Shellbee, he's so on point with his micro, with boosting in and defending his main. And with that, that's exactly what he does. He pushes the Mutalists away. Sure, he did lose a base, which is pretty big, but yo, he's just making 3 CCs. He's got the money for it. He had the 4th base running long enough to the point where he actually had a bank. He has a bank to spare. Oh boy, but this is getting a little bit ambitious. Shellbee, he pushes deep onto creep. He clears a lot of that creep, and he is reinforcing with Thors and tanks, but yo, 5 tanks? Is this enough? Against a potential surround? We'll see. The ZergLord is maxed out. He's got Ling Bane here to the south, to the north. He's got Mutas. He's ready to engulf this army. Will he have enough? I'm concerned because the tanks aren't very well spread, and the Lings are getting on top of everything. The Mutas dive in as well. Oh my god, but the Thors are standing strong and they are shelling away at those Mutas. The micro with the Medivacs as well, they keep the Thors alive. Wow, alive just barely long enough to kill every single Mutalist. That Thor, how much HP? 5 HP. That Thor is 1 shot. Oh god, the Lynx! The Thor has 1 HP! Oh my god! Land a mule, repair it please! It does seem like Shellbee is running out of steam, but you know what? The ZergLord has just run out of army. He's got a handful of Lings, he's got 11 Mutas on the way, but against the rallying reinforcements, is it going to be enough? What's scary is that there's no anti-air. There's 2 Vikings. All the Thors got taken out, so the Mutas will be able to clean this up. Yo, as the Mutas dive in, they get on top of the tanks, they're going to be able to clean up the ground army, and Shellbee, even though he has a massive lead when it comes to supply, none of it shoots up, man. None of this shoots up. Ay, ay, ay. Shellbee, please. Oh, God. The army of Shellbee does get cleaned up by all the Mutalisks. Shellbee, he is remaxing on Thors, or he's trying to make nothing but Thors, which is great. but we'll see what he's going to be able to accomplish with this. He pushes on forward. He does push the mutas away. Is 2 Thors really enough here? Enough Magic Box could contend against this? Oh my god, he's trying to catch reinforcements, but 5 Thors! Oh, the volleys do go off on the mutas. A lot of mutas do go down, and the mutas, they were not able to defend against the ground army. The hatchery does fall. The mutas are forced back. Meanwhile, there is a bit of a ling run by. Thankfully, this time at the 3rd base, there is a wall here, so the lings, unfortunately, they do not get into the mineral line as they would have loved to have. They don't get any damage whatsoever. They only kill a handful of depots, and now Shellbee, he cleared the base here to the north, and now he's rotating around, looking to hit the south. And this is where things like creep spread come into play. All those queens died earlier, so all this creep being spread, it's not going to be respread, it's not going to be rebuilt. Meanwhile, instead, the ZergLord goes for a massive run by, but it is not enough. He cannot hold against the main army. GG gets called, and Shellbee takes down the ZergLord. Wow. Congratulations, Shellbee. He does move on. Honestly, things are looking scary in game 2. Like, the ZergLord did not look like he was having a hard time at all against Shellbee. But in game 3, Shellbee was able to bring it back. He was able to secure his 4th base. And now he moves on in the bracket to face Jim Rising.